Hello again, everyone. Edwin Leonard back once again in this YouTube astrological segment. I'm going to be talking about transit Venus making a square opposition or inconjunct aspect to one's natal midheaven. Now, when we're talking about transits that involve Venus, this could be about love, enjoyment, money, possessions, resources, values, our self worth, self esteem, and how we feel about ourselves. Now, when the transit of Venus is basically making an adverse aspect to the natal midheaven, when I elaborate on, I'm saying basically adverse aspect, I mean the squares and oppositions, of course, are adverse and negative aspects. The inconjunct, though it's neutral, I mean, can be an aspect of adjustment, of transition, and that, of course, can be, accompanied by tension and exasperation. So collectively, it is basically an adverse aspect. I see it as anyway. When transit Venus is basically making an adverse aspect to one's natal midheaven, well, this may manifest in the love, the enjoyment, money, possessions, resources, values, self worth, self esteem, how one feels about oneself may conflict. Could be with one's career. I mean, if the midheaven is in Sagittarius, it may be career in sports or athletics or something with the outdoors, exploration, publishing, um, something that is something with advertising, traveling to foreign countries as some examples. Midheaven, I say it as being connected with laborious work. It is the midheaven is the house of Capricorn and Saturn, and this could be where you don't necessarily are enamored or love working hard. Most people don't anyway, but this is a time where there might even be less exuberance and enjoyment in those matters. If the midheaven is in Scorpio, it might be something with transformation or recycling or insurance matter. It might be just anything that could be Scorpio related, something that might require some extensive investigation. Um, the midheaven is also connected with our responsibilities. So sometimes it could be a monetary situation may conflict with something we need to be responsible for. If there's a payment or if there's a child care, it's like a child care payment as an example. This could be, a situation where either the money might be harder to come by in order to attain this at this time, or whatever the whatever you're responsible for at this time. And these things, of course, could be much less enjoyable than they ordinarily would. Now, the midheaven is also associated with the dominant parent, which is generally the father. Now, this is a time where, I mean, you're somebody that always loves your father in most cases. This is going to be a time where you might still love the father, but you might not feel like expressing those sentiments as much as you ordinarily would. You might be seeing, or could be seeing, or perceiving the negative qualities of this person. Say if the midheaven is in Capricorn, it might be some undemonstrative or cold or callous qualities or characteristics that you may be seeing, is what you're basically seeing, and it might be seeing more of the negative on this person at this time more so than usual, or maybe you're not truly valuing or appreciating this person as much as you ordinarily would. Uh, Midheaven can also be connected with authority, whether it's attaining authority or authority figures in one's life. So this could be a time where, if you're working, in a position, you're working for somebody and somebody's in a position of authority over you, maybe it's harder getting or extracting the funds, so to speak, from this person at this time. Maybe you don't really value these people at this time as much as you ordinarily would. It could be a situation too where you might be looking at it where your self-worth, your self-esteem, how you feel about yourself might be adversely affected by this person. If you have somebody in a position of authorities over you, and it's a very domineering, authoritative personality, and you feel like they're just putting you in your place just for the sake of doing it, just to exert their power and remind you of who they are and who you are. It could be a time where it might have a more of an impact negatively on how you might feel about yourself. Remember, Venus is associated with our self-worth. Now, midheaven is also connected with our with success. So if you're trying to do something like you're trying to promote yourself some way, and you're trying to get the money to do so and be more successful, this could be a time where those funds might be a little bit harder to come by, more so than usual, or maybe you're not really valuing where you are in terms of how successful you are. You might actually be considered successful by other people as far as the perception may go anyway, but you might not be valuing it really the way maybe you should at this time. And also the midheaven is also connected with that side we can't suppress. Remember, the fourth house is about what we may show, when we're, energy we might exhibit at the core, what we show, what we do when we're by ourselves when no one else is around. But the midheaven can be that side that might be difficult to suppress and comes out whether you're trying to hold it back or not. And the thing about it is, I mean, this could be that side that you're not necessarily enjoying at this time. And say if the midheaven is in Aquarius, it might be a rebellious or very eccentric side, maybe exhibiting some idiosyncrasies that you're not overly fond of, or you don't love or enjoy at this time. And also the midheaven is connected with our, the notoriety, exposure we might get at this time. And again, going back to what I was stating, before, if you're trying to do something in order to attain more notoriety, exposure, get recognition, and if money is involved, which it can be, in order to promote yourself, say, in order to do this, the funds might be a little bit harder to come by. Remember, this transit does not last for a protracted period of time. The moon, I mean, goes much shorter than this. The transits of the moon last about 10 hours, but the transit of Venus you're talking about in days. So it's really not that long, but you do get them fairly frequently throughout the year. But anyway, this could also be a situation. Remember that the midheaven is also about our public image and reputation. So at this time, it might be a situation where, if you've had some falling out in a relationship, whether it might be an important friendship or a significant other, could be a marriage partner, that this, this person might have a negative or adverse effect on your reputation, or it might be having to spend money that you didn't really want to have to spend in order to repair it. I mean, if you're, something, let's say, with your credit history is not good at this time, there's a blemish on it, and it might affect your, your reputation score, say online in some cases. This could be the time, if there is money that is owed that is connected with this, that it could be a harder time trying to get those funds in order to restore, as an example. Now, your midheaven is also connected with the, your stature in life and your social status, how you stack up with other people. And it could be a time, well, I mean, it could manifest a number of ways. You may not value where you are in terms of where you are with us. You might not appreciate it much. You might think that your self-esteem and self-worth and how you feel about yourself might be affected very negatively by this at this time. Maybe you're really not where you want to be, and it's just something where, or at least you perceive that, and it might be bringing you down. Now, another way that this transit may manifest, this could be, again, going back to, not loving laborious or hard work at this time. And going back to, midheaven being in Aquarius as an example, it could be altruistic or humanitarian endeavors, or doing, work with astrology or computers, electronics, working as an electrician, doing something with astronomy, innovation, as some examples. Another thing too is that relationships at this time might conflict with your responsibilities and duties, things that you need to get taken care of. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back. Anyway, it could be, well, say if the midheaven is in Scorpio as an example, it could be matters with taxes or insurance, or dealing with some death, whether you're paying for funeral expenses or burial fees or whatever it might be. Um, it may be a situation too. I mean, looking at this as well, um, could also be your self-worth again could be adversely affected by your stature in life, where you stack up with others, your social status. Say, for example, if the midheaven is in Gemini, maybe this has something to do with the lack of persistence and basically dissipating yourself through a lack of integrating purpose. It could be just spreading yourself too thin, trying to do manifold things, too many things often, maybe even simultaneously, and not finishing things, not following up, where you can really attain the success that you truly want to. It can be something too where it could also be, remember that Venus is about money and costs and values. It might be harder to ascertain the money, maybe in attaining some position of authority. Say if you've been contemplating a position, in management or some authority position that's been offered to you, it can be a time where you're just not, you're not really getting, the answers you need on this, and people are being vague or they're ducking the question, and it might be harder to ascertain this. If there's a business, it might be harder to evaluate, to get that cost of that business as well, if you're trying to figure something like that out. As an example, I would say the midheaven can be connected with businesses. It is the house of the midheaven in astrology does correspond with the zodiac sign Capricorn and Saturn. If say if the midheaven is in Taurus, it could be going back to a position of authority. It could be something with banking, or a stockbroker firm, if those exist. Something with finance, a pawnbroker, head of maybe a management position of some pawnbroker, store or company or what have you. As some examples, or some head, maybe there's like a agriculture or architecture firm or company. It could be something like that as an example. But anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Lerner saying stay well.